Up next on Smart 24 TV.
Hello there, a very good morning and a warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching Smart 24 TV. We drive your business. This is Financial Markets, and of course, we bring you a daily dose of what is happening in the different stock markets here within Africa and of course for the rest of the world. My name is Anthony, and to follow the show, you can of course get to our YouTube channel. You can get to our Twitter handle, that's at Smart 24 TV now. You can also catch us live on GOTV and DSTV channels 302 and 372 there, of course, for the business updates. Now, of course, the show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, and Altex is a trading platform that tells you can do something new. With Zabu and Altex, we are saying you can do something absolutely new because we're not only giving you access to the market, but also affordability. Now, Altex East Africa is a company that is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority in Uganda. This is a body in charge of capital markets regulations and of course ensuring that the market players are doing their best to see that they bring investors value, but also protect the investors from fraud. Now, with Altex East Africa, we are saying you can do something new. Why? Because one, we are giving you access to the safest investments ever in the financial markets, that is the treasury bond markets, by simply using your mobile money. Now you can dial *292# and experience the magic at Altex East Africa. All you need to do is to have, of course, some money on your mobile money, and you can do that, of course, by loading money on MTN or Airtel lines, and then you dial *292#, register, and follow the prompts. Altex East Africa is saying you can do something absolutely new. Well, ahead of the show tonight, we are having several topics of discussion. Number one, the Kenyan market. Nairobi Securities Exchange is under fire. Of course, reports coming out currently show that we have several companies that are listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange with a negative working capital. So that is hampering trade on the Nairobi Securities Exchange and, of course, ruining the interest of more investors to invest in the Nairobi market. We're going to see why and what could be the solution to this. But also, we're going to look at some of the trade from the Uganda Securities Exchange after it opened their markets as well yesterday, and of course Nairobi as well, and a couple of other stocks in Africa. But let's start with the rest of Africa, and our first, of course, journey to West Africa on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Now, Ghana Stock Exchange, as we all know, has 18 listings currently on their main board of the trading platform there on the Ghana Securities Exchange. The benchmark index, which tracks the aggregate performance of all the 18 listings, is known as the Ghana Securities Exchange Consumer Index. And now, when you look at the trades on Tuesday, as of 13th of June, in aggregate, we had 14 listings participating in trade, ending the day with at least one gainer, namely GCB Bank, and no loser at all. Now, GCB Bank registered a 1.59% appreciation in price and closed the day with the biggest appreciation in price and the only stock that gained on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Now, who is GCB Bank? Now, GCB Bank is formerly known as the Ghana Commercial Bank. It's the largest independent financial institution in Ghana. And the company is, of course, enjoying a very wealthy history in Ghana, formed in 1953 as the Bank of Gold Coast to provide banking services, especially to the emerging nations' socio-economic development. The bank had been wholly owned by the government of Ghana until 1996, when it went entirely private. Today, The government's ownership stands at least 21.4%, while individual and institutional take-up have, of course, taken up the rest of the space there at Ghana Commercial Bank. Today, the government's ownership, as I said, is at 21%. But that, of course, means that the private sector has more say within the bank. That is the Ghana Commercial Bank there. Now, currently, also, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust is currently the largest shareholder within the company at 29.8%, meaning Social Security in Ghana and the National Insurance Trust are one of the biggest shareholders within the Ghana Commercial Bank, and they have a lot of impact on what goes on within the company. Now, looking at the company's performance in the recent past, first of all, the company has close to 848 million worth of stocks on the Ghana Stock Exchange, and this represents about 1.26% of the Ghana Stock Exchange. And when you look at the current equity performances, the company yesterday added 0.05 to their price, at least closing at 3.2, and that was a 1.59% appreciation after trading a volume of about 1.02 million shares. Now, Ghana Commercial Bank in the longer run has a 1.59% gain weekly within the last 1 quarter of performance on the Ghana Stock Exchange. However, really interesting to note is the fact that the Ghana Commercial Bank is the 4th most traded on stock on the Ghana Stock Exchange. So it's pretty attractive for investors, and it would be a stock that you would probably be looking out for if you are to invest on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Other news from Ghana, of course, we have EcoBank Transnational trading one of the biggest volumes after the Ghana Commercial Bank with 17,000 shares, and Benz Oil Palm Plantation at least 4,138 shares, and MTN Ghana, a very popular company there on the Ghana Stock Exchange, trading 2,127 shares. Regarding the performance of the benchmark index, the Ghana Stock Exchange Consumer Index at least inched up by 1.27 points. That was by 0.05%. That is appreciating to 2,638 points, implying that the weekly performance has now reached gains of 1.23% in Ghana and 4-week losses of 3.08%. Ghana is still pretty interesting place to invest in. Quite a number of stocks are coming up. However, of course, we must take note of the fact that the country has been through a period of inflation, just like the rest of the sub-Saharan African countries. And so you must be cautious as you're investing in spaces such as the Ghana Stock Exchange. Moving away from Ghana, still within the West African region, in Africa, let's have a look at the Nigeria Stock Exchange. Nigeria is one of those biggest stock exchanges as well in Africa, especially when it comes to companies that are trading in energy. We are looking at oil companies, cement factories, and a couple of other energy stocks. It's quite big on those. And also, according to one of the leading rankings, in terms of stock exchange performances in Africa, it really comes in the top 5 stock exchanges within Africa. Now, Nigeria Stock Exchange yesterday had 2,232 points added to their benchmark index. That is the Nigeria Stock Exchange All Share Index. They do have an All Share Index on all their 156 listings that tracks the aggregate performance of all those stocks. And a total of at least 19.2 billion Nigerian naira was transacted yesterday. Compared with the previous day, there was 106%, to be very specific, improvement in the volume. And when we talk about the volume, we are really talking about how many shares were actually sold or were bought on that particular day. So there was an improvement of at least 106% in terms of those volumes at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. The turnover in terms of the amount of money that these shares were bought or sold also improved by 216%, and whereas the deals improved by 57%. Pretty good outlook for the Nigerian Stock Exchange currently. The current market capitalization of the Nigeria Stock Exchange is at 31.7 trillion Nigerian nairas. In aggregate, when you look at the number of stocks listed, at least 121 of the 156 participated in trade. Now, as a trader, why would you be interested in a stock in Nigeria, for example? You're looking at a market with at least 31.7 trillion Nigerian naira. I didn't do the math well, but if you put that in dollars, that is one of the biggest, in terms of turnover, in terms of market capitalization, the largest stock exchanges by far in size, of course, leaving alone Johannesburg Stock Exchange, okay? So you would be very interested in a market like this one. Another thing why you would be interested in Nigeria is, first of all, they do have very diversified products. They have several products for you to trade on. They have energy stocks where you can say, okay, I need an exchange traded fund on energy stocks. You'll get one. And an exchange traded fund gives you a diversification portfolio, a diversified portfolio rather, so you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket, which is always the goal of any investor. If you're an investor out there, that should be your goal on a daily to diversify. And the Nigerian market just gives you that. They have a touch of insurance, they have a touch of financial institutions that are listed, and a couple of other very interesting listings on Nigeria Stock Exchange. But in as far as the performance is concerned yesterday, Access Holdings led the gainers with a 10% appreciation in price and closed off the day at least 14.30 Nigerian nairas per share. Now, what is Access Holdings? Access Holdings is a diversified institution. Just like I said, diversification. Even a single company you're investing in is diversified. So you're looking at something that every investor is always interested in, putting things here and there, okay? Now, the company we are talking about, Access Bank or Access Holdings, is a diversified financial institution operating via the network of more than 600 branches and service outlets across over 12 countries within Africa, with over about 30 million customers across the board. Listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange since 1998, the bank has over 900,000 shareholders and has recorded a phenomenal banking growth trajectory as in the past decade performance. Following its merger with Diamond Trust Bank in March 2019, the Access Bank became one of Africa's largest retail banks by retail customer base. The bank has subsidiaries within Sub-Saharan Africa and the United Kingdom, with a branch in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, and representatives in China, Lebanon, and India. Now, that's the stuff we're talking about. That's the stuff we're interested in. Someone who has options, you must have options. You must have, something here, something there. If this fails, there's always something to back you up. And this is exactly where you want to put your money. Now, let's look at Access Corporation or Access Holdings performance. Yesterday, they added 1.3 Nigerian naira to their price and were up to 14.3 Nigerian nairas, which was a 10% appreciation in their price after recording 72.1 million shares and 658 deals over a turnover of 1.02 billion naira. We need this stuff. We need this stuff. And if you're an investor out there in Uganda, you need to look abroad because, yes, our markets are growing here within Uganda, within East Africa, but it's no harm for you to actually look abroad for something that would give you more value in a shorter time. Now, these are companies that trade every day. You can imagine on a single day trading about 1.02 billion Nigerian naira. That is a very, very good very good deal to actually break away with. In the longer run, 1 week performances, the company has appreciated 13.9%. In the 4 weeks, at least 44.4% has been added to their value. And in the quarterly performances, at least 56.3% has been added to the Access Holdings value. Access Holdings is now currently the second most traded on stock on the Nigerian Stock Exchange over the past quarter, within the period ended, of course, yesterday on the 13th of June. Within this period, they have recorded at least 4.74 billion shares that have been transacted over 25,706 deals at an average of about 50.4 billion Nigerian naira in value there that has been spent on the company. Enough of Access Holdings, very interesting stuff there from Nigeria. We had National Salt Company add 10% as well on the Nigeria Stock Exchange. We did have the Guarantee Trust Holdings at least at 10% as well, and the Zenith Bank at 10%. Very good performance was put up yesterday by Nigeria. On the losing side, we had Ella Lakes at least lose the biggest amount of value at 10% depreciation, closing off at 3.6 Nigerian naira, and John Holt at 10% as well, and the Initiates at 9.62%. In as far as the trade is concerned, unfortunately, Access Holdings wasn't the biggest trader. The biggest trader for the day, in as far as volumes are concerned, was United Bank for Africa, which recorded at least about 215 million shares that were traded, followed by Guarantee Trust, and then Zenith Bank and Japol Gold and Ventures. The Nigerian index that tracks the aggregate performance of all the 156 listings, at least also appreciated by 2,236 points and closed off the day at 58,162 points, meaning they're now on a 1 week gain of 4.22% and a 4 week gain of 11.39%. Now, generally speaking, these are my own opinions, and you can actually get to challenge them. Nigeria Stock Exchange is one of those most promising stock exchanges within Africa. Yes, it's not the largest. Yes, it's not the busiest. But with this kind of performance, if they sustain this for even just 1 quarter, I'm pretty sure they will be on top of their game by the end of this year. So definitely, I would advise investors definitely to get themselves interested in a Nigerian Stock Exchange, and try your chances. Try as much as you can to diversify within Africa, and of course outside Africa as well, as much as you can. Away from Nigeria, let's get back now to South Africa and have a look at Johannesburg Stock Exchange and see what the markets look like in Johannesburg. Now, Johannesburg has definitely a couple of indices, couple of products, the biggest, busiest, oldest stock exchange within Africa. Why should you be interested in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange? Yesterday, the J203, which is what we call the benchmark because it has the biggest number of listings, the benchmark added at least 1,545 points, closed off at 77,827 points on Tuesday. Now, this is a 1 week gain of 1.29% and a 4 week loss of 0.19%, slightly, improving. Now, Johannesburg Stock Exchange, first of all, has diversified products, and that's what we're looking at as well. Secondly, you have over 19.7 trillion South African rand up for grab on the South African market. You have companies listed from Australia, companies listed from London Stock Exchange, companies cross-listed on Bombay Stock Exchange. So you can track your stocks elsewhere apart from South Africa, which is quite interesting and something that gives the investor a 360 degrees look at how this company is actually performing. Because when you compare, of course, performance is always guarantee you success or failure of the company. So you look at the performance on the London Stock Exchange, how busy they are. You look at their performance on the Australian Stock Exchange, and then you look at them on South African markets. That is what you're looking for. You're looking for a company that can give you that much comfort and that much outlook into how they are doing, into how much actually they have to offer and how much the rest of the world is interested in that particular stock. Now, looking at yesterday, in aggregate, we had 318 out of the 422 listings participating in trade on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The day fortunately ended with 216 gainers and close to about 76 losers. Stefanati Stock Holdings led the gainers at 15% appreciation, closing off the day at 1.61 South African rand. Now, Stefanati Stocks Holdings is a construction service company that operates in South Africa and the rest of sub-Saharan Africa and the United Arab Emirates. The company builds industrial and petrochemical plants, cooling towers for power stations, mining infrastructure, dams, roads, bridges, water and effluent treatment plants, as well as township infrastructure, industrial, commercial, and other works. Generally, a civil engineering company, if we could name it. However, on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, currently Stefanati Holdings has about, 303 million South African rand that they have for grabs. At their current stock performance, definitely there is a lot to reckon with. Yesterday, they had just 303,000 shares traded at 452,000 South African rand. In terms of trade, they are the 186th most traded on stock. Remember here, we're talking about 422 stocks. And they are also, in the past 3 months, one of the leading quarterly performers in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange with an 8% appreciation in price. Pretty interesting stock there on Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We also had SAB Zenzele Kabili at 11.08% appreciation. We had Pick and Pay Stores at 7.97% as well appreciation. On the losing side, Sepaku Holdings came in last with at least an end of day price depreciation of 12%. Let's of course come back home, and this is in East Africa, and start off with Uganda Stock Exchange, as of course before we go ahead to analyze the Nairobi stocks. Now on Uganda Stock Exchange yesterday, we had just 3 participants in trade, and these were the MTN Uganda Company and Stanbic Bank, as well as Uganda Cranes. Compared with the previous day, the volumes declined by 77% and the turnover declined as well by 79%. The day ended with 6 gainers and just 2 losers, and of course that positively impacted our all-share index, which moved up by 0.07 points. Now let's look at the big performers here, the guys in the gaining side. East African Breweries Limited led at 1.73% appreciation, followed by Centum, Jubilee Holdings, the Nation Media Group, MTN Uganda, and Kenya Airways. Amongst all these, the only participant in the trade was MTN Uganda. MTN Uganda appreciated by 0.08% and fortunately now is back to the 170 shillings mark. Currently, when you look at the losers, Equity Bank Limited lost 1.52% and KCB Group lost at least 0.28%. All of them non-participating in the market. Now, yesterday was a good day for MTN. First of all, it recorded a very good volume after quite some time of trading on and off. MTN recorded at least 1.71 million shares at exactly 291 million Ugandan shillings. This saw their price increase by 0.14 Ugandan shillings and closed off at 170.0 Ugandan shillings. Pretty interesting performance. Well, our prayer is that MTN sustains this growth and definitely gets back to at least the 180s and then the 190, and then the final goal, of course, is to get to the 200 shilling mark, probably where we had the IPO, so that we can have actually the initial investors break even at MTN Uganda. Elsewhere, Uganda Cranes traded just 1,000 shares and there was no impact on their price. Their price remained steady at 15 shillings. And Stanbic Bank at 136,500 shares closed off at 26.0 Ugandan shillings. And that was it from, of course, our Uganda markets. But before we close, let's have a look at what's happening in Nairobi. Now, about 1/4 of the firms listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, according to our data here, are facing financial constraints, which may require fresh capital to sustain operations and dividend payment to shareholders. The worrying state of affairs demonstrates the extent of the battering that listed firms have borne in the last few years. And of course, due to the ongoing economic crisis, this could be aggravated in the longer or short term. Investors are seemingly lacking interest currently in the stocks as a result of the depleted disposable incomes and, of course, the emergency of alternative investments within the real estate and private equity. We're going to pick up that story from there tomorrow. But all we need to know is that at least 1/4 of NSE is in the negative working capitals. It means they can no longer finance at least some of their operations. They're in a deficit budget, if sorry to say. But that's the current state of affairs, at least on Nairobi Stock Exchange. Remember, there's been a fallback on foreign investors. More local investors have been interested in Nairobi. However, they are not yet to the point where they can sustain most of the companies within, because the dividends are not coming in as usual. And of course, a few other economic challenges are also coming in to hamper the investment from the local market. So we're going to pick up that story from there. But thank you so much for tuning in, Smart 24 TV. Remember, more business is coming your way. Smart 24 TV is a business channel, and we bring you business 24 hours, 7 days a week. Remember also that the show is proudly sponsored by Altex, and Altex and Azabu tell you that you can do something new by simply dialing *292# and following the prompts to register and buy treasury bonds within Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. That's it, my friend. Thank you so much once again for tuning in and for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at Smart24TV now, or you can follow me personally at Anthony Sebale. And of course, give us some feedback there. It will be quite handy and helpful moving forward. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.